Today is Monday, February 24, 2020. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, Senator Bernie Sanders takes the lead after winning the Nevada caucus, but can he continue the momentum in South Carolina? Tom Steyer is back on the presidential debate stage tomorrow in Charleston, South Carolina. We'll be there as well. Now, there are a number of other elections we should be watching. We'll introduce you to the black candidate running for Congress in Indiana. Also today in Los Angeles, Kobe Bryant's memorial service took place. A packed arena at the Staples Center. We'll show you some of that. And also Vanessa Bryant, his widow, has filed a wrongful death suit against the helicopter company and the family of the helicopter pilot, of course, who was leading the helicopter when Kobe Bryant was killed. Also, two major losses in our community. Retired NASA engineer Katherine Johnson of Hidden Figures fame died this weekend, as well as restaurant owner, model, as well as, of course, an amazing entrepreneur, B. Smith. And I'll show you the interview I did with her and her husband as they talked about her Alzheimer's battle. Folks, it is time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, Rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now. Martin.
Today in L.A., a public memorial service was held for Kobe Bryant and his 13-year-old daughter, Gianna, nearly 1 month after the helicopter crash that took their lives along with 7 others. A number of NBA stars, folks from Hollywood, also colleagues and loved ones paid tribute to Kobe Bryant in an amazing memorial service.
I don't think any of us could have imagined this. Everywhere you go, you see his face, his number. Gigi's face, Gigi's number. Everywhere, at every intersection. There are hundreds of murals painted by artists who were inspired, not because he's a basketball player, but because Kobe was an artist too. And not just in LA, across the country, in Kobe's hometown, Philadelphia, in Italy, in India, the Philippines, China, New York, Phoenix, Boston, for God's sake. In places where he would be booed on the court, Kobe is missed.
She was thoughtful like him. They were so easy to love. Everyone naturally gravitated towards them. They were funny, happy, silly, and they loved life. They were so full of joy and adventure. God knew they couldn't be on this earth without each other. he had to bring them home to heaven together. Babe, you take care of our Gigi. And I got Nani, Bibi, and Coco. We're still the best team. We love and miss you, Boo Boo and Gigi. May you both rest in peace and have fun in heaven until we meet again one day. We love you both and miss you forever and always. Mommy.
What Kobe Bryant was to me was the inspiration that someone truly cared about the way I played the game or the way that he wanted to play the game. He wanted to be the best basketball player that he could be. And as I got to know him, I wanted to be the best big brother that I could be. To do that, you had to put up with the aggravation, the late night calls, or the dumb questions. I took great pride as I got to know Kobe Bryant that he was just trying to be a better person, a better basketball player. We talked about business. We talked about family. We talked about everything. And he was just trying to be a better person. Now he's got me. I'll have to look at another crime meme for the next. I told my wife I wasn't going to do this because I didn't want to see that for the next 3 or 4 years. That is what Kobe Bryant does to me. I'm pretty sure Vanessa and his friends all can say the same thing. He knows how to get to you in a way that affects you personally, even though if he's being a pain in the ass. But you ever have a sense of love for him in the way that he can bring out the best in you. And he did that for me.
All right, folks, my panel is Mario King, the mayor of Moss Point, Mississippi, Eugene Craig, CEO, Eugene Craig Organization, Mustafa Santiago, a lead former senior advisor for environmental justice for the EPA. So certainly that was a moving service. I saw somebody sent a tweet out, though, that I thought was very interesting. Actually, it was Lovage, and she sent a tweet out, and she said that the death of Kobe Bryant has allowed black men to be able to mourn publicly and be able to cry, be able to express themselves in a way they normally don't. I thought that was certainly was an interesting thought there.
I agree. I think that this, number one, when you connect a child with anything, it becomes very emotional. But for people like myself that has 2 daughters and a son, it's very emotional to see this. And I think it just shows the display of our love and our affection, and that black men aren't always this big bad wolf, and that we do have a soft side of us. And I think that what he's done for our country and what he's done for us all together, this is great. And Kobe Bryant is exactly what we all want to be when it comes down to fathers, and the depiction of him and what he did for his children being displayed all over the country is an example of how we really should be and should mirror ourselves as men. And some of us do that, but I think this is just a great reminder of that.
It has been remarkable. I mean, look, it's been a month, and I mean, the tributes have continued in numerous venues. I was at the American Black Film Festival Honors last night, at the Image Awards on Saturday, and there were tributes in both of those shows to Kobe Bryant. Not only in the in memoriam section, but also Lou Gossett Jr. and others.
Yeah, this interesting thing about it is this: when celebrities die, it impacts people differently. And the thing about Kobe is that, especially for a lot of folk in my generation, we watched him develop. You know, most of us were kids when he got drafted, and were adults when he ended his career. And throughout that 20 or so year time span, you know, there was a lot of moments that we got to experience and share with Kobe. And you know, I equate it to, you know, similar to when Nipsey died. You know, it's one of those things where you develop a special connection with somebody you may have never met, you know, a celebrity you may have never met. That you know, when they pass, you know, you feel like you lost a part of yourself because that celebrity was a part of who you are as a person.
Also generational. I mean, the reality is,
Right.
I think if you look at a previous generation, whether it's Dr. J, whether it's Jordan, I think if you think about when you see the reaction when Aaliyah died, how a younger generation saw that compared to when Aretha Franklin dies again. And so it's because oftentimes we measure or we place markers in our lives based upon sort of these pop culture moments, a movie or a song or an athlete, and that also plays a part of this.
Kobe was an icon. He was an icon because he did the work, you know,
Absolutely.
not only on the court, but also off the court. And that's what separates, you know, someone can be just a great ball player, you know, basketball, football, baseball, whatever it might be. But they may not have the other components that make them truly a great person. And, you know, on the artistic side, the work that he did, you know, his philanthropy, all these various things, Kobe was a perfectionist. He was someone who was focused on perfection and always trying to do something better and to get better.
And now, but Greg Carr actually, and I put this out there because I just landed, folks, about hour and 30 minutes ago from Los Angeles. And he had posted that he found it interesting that not a single person, that there was no discussion about Kobe's life before he was a Laker. No folks who grew up with, classmates. And they also said that there wasn't a single acknowledgement to his parents by one person. Nobody said pray for Kobe's parents and siblings. I mean, Kobe Bryant, his parents are still living.
Yeah.
His siblings are still living.
They panned to him earlier during the memorial. I think this is right, and I actually kind of like how his wife Vanessa did it. Right, there were moments for the family, and then there was moments for Kobe Bryant, the public figure.
Well, what we say the family really just her and the daughters.
Well, no, they had a private ceremony for
precisely.
family and close friends, and so what we saw today was, hey, this is, you know, the memorial service of Kobe Bryant, the public figure that we know. I mean, all the speakers were essentially structured around his life as a player, as a Laker. I mean, you know, from his impact on the WNBA to having his agent and now manager of the Lakers speak, and to having the two probably most impactful people in his career, you know, Michael Jordan and Shaq, you know, speak, and they all spoke to him, to his legacy. You know, this was a moment for the public and the image of Kobe Bryant that the public had. And I think, you know, strategically, especially in light of some of the other angles some, you know, journalists may take on Kobe Bryant, right? I think strategically, you know, this is something, it's another marker there for carrying on his legacy.
I also think that, you know, when we think about the whole incident, the tragedy was surrounding around a man and his daughter. And I think that is so hard to regroup and take the focus off of a man losing his child, and that being a celebrity just kind of exacerbates the whole discussion around Kobe Bryant, the celebrity. But you hear Kobe and Gigi, 24, 8, and 2. You hear these things all together because we understand, and a lot of people do understand the family portion of it, but when you think about it, everybody's thinking that Kobe Bryant and his daughter, these are two people that lost their lives. And even I've seen a lot of people now starting to relate to the other 7 individuals, and the capacity of that within itself of 7 families and another father and daughter, a mother and a father and their daughter. So many people lost their lives, but it was all depicted around that same imagery of a man, a father losing their
Got
child.
it. Well, speaking of that, today, the memorial service was today, but also in a courtroom, Vanessa Bryant's attorneys filed a lawsuit today against the helicopter company as well as the pilot who also died in that helicopter crash. It was, of course, it was filed in Los Angeles Superior Court. According to her wrongful death lawsuit, the pilot was careless and negligent by flying in cloudy conditions on January 26th and should have aborted the flight that killed all the folks there. The lawsuit is against Island Express Helicopters, Inc., as well as the pilot and his family, Ara Zobayan. Now, some people thought that was a little difficult, that he'd get this memorial service that honored Kobe Bryant, his daughter Gigi, and the 7 others who died, and you file a lawsuit against the pilot's family, who are also grieving because he died also in the plane crash. But that happened today as well there in a courtroom in Los Angeles. So we'll certainly see what happens with that story there moving forward. And so we can certainly expect certainly more things to happen in the future. Folks, in New York, Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein was found guilty of rape in a criminal sexual act today. He was facing a total of 5 sex crime charges and was found not guilty of the most serious charges against him. Those charges, predatory sexual assault, could have landed him in prison for life. After the verdict, Weinstein was ordered to head to jail to await sentencing on March 11th. Now, that's interesting there. First of all, when you look at this case, found guilty in New York, but he's still going to face trial in Los Angeles. Harvey Weinstein could spend the rest of his life in prison. Even though the predatory charges had been convicted of those would have been life in prison.
Yeah. I mean, he essentially got a virtual life in prison sentence, right? There are a couple things here. First, he's 67 years old. I read that he's probably facing somewhere between 5 to 29 years, and that's just this case alone.
Right.
The science shows that every year in prison that you take that you serve, essentially a year comes off of your life just because of the conditions of prison. So even if he takes that, even if he gets the minimum, 5 years, right? I mean, if he does 5 straight, he's coming out at 72. He's probably not living too much longer because of it. I mean, he's already in bad health, and I'm pretty sure once he gets in there, who knows what happens there.
We think
he's in bad health.
I think that's a whole lot of acting going on right there.
Probably.
Yeah, I mean, all of a sudden he needs a roller/walker, and if you watch him when he lets that go to the side, then he straightens up a little bit, grabs hold of the rail. We all know the theatrics that go on for some folks who've been caught in this situation. But here's the reality of what's going on. One, when he finds time, when he gets to the place where he's going to be spending the rest of his time, 60% of the men who've been in federal prison have also dealt with sexual assault. And then we also got to remember this too, because sometimes we get focused on these high-profile cases, which they deserve the attention. We got almost 18 million women in this country who have been sexually assaulted, who are dealing with rape or attempted rape. We've got 1 in 6 women who have been through this type of a situation. And as I was sharing with someone earlier today, when brothers sometimes think, well, this is just a female problem, we got 1 in 10 men who have also dealt with sexual assault or rape situations. So we need to also just get really focused on this. One, we need to make sure there are stronger laws. So when he's able to get off on some of these predatory charges, then we need to take a look at those, the way that that's structured right now to make sure this type of thing is not happening.
Absolutely. I think that we need to take it serious, number one, and I think that we need to watch our justice system and make sure that everybody has this equal justice play out. I think that what he's done is there's no excuse for it. I think, like you said, if he get this minimum 5 years, I don't care if he did it or if the minimum sentence, or I don't care how young he is. My thing is he needs to serve his time. He needs to be fully accountable for what he's done. I think that oftentimes that we take these things and we say, oh, he's old and he's on the walker, but is he? But even if he's not, I don't think that's really something that I'm concerned with. I just think that if he was found guilty, litigation is an opportunity for us to be able to discuss the facts. Oh, yeah. He was he was fact-based. He was found guilty. I think he needs to serve his time, and I think it needs to be served to the max, because these children, these people that were victims of his inconsideration and his negligence, his abuse of power. I think when you think about all of those things, we need to keep that stuff in mind. And when we think about the victims of these types of things, the 1 in 10 men, all the women, the Me Too movement, this is when it really shows, and this is our opportunity, the justice system opportunity to show us that it's important and that it's serious.
All right, folks, in Chicago, Justice Smollett pleaded not guilty The 6 counts of disorderly conduct before Judge James Lynn. A new indictment earlier this month alleged that the actor made 4 separate false reports to Chicago police after the January 29, 2019 incident. Smollett's lawyers filed motions with the Illinois Supreme Court seeking a stay in the criminal case in Chicago, a dismissal of the indictment, and asking that a prior court order establishing lawyer Dan Webb as special prosecutor be vacated. In addition, defense attorneys filed paperwork before Lynn requesting that the case be tossed out since it violates Smollett's double jeopardy protections. The next hearing will take place on March 18th. Got to go to a break. When we come back, we'll talk politics and what's happening in South Carolina right here in Roland Martin Unfiltered. Roland Martin Unfiltered, youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it.
Racism is not an excuse to not do the best you can. American professional tennis player Arthur Ashe.
All right, folks, are you looking to enhance your leadership or that of your team in 2020? Well, you should join Dr. Jackie Hood Martin for her newest online course and mastermind group, How Successful People Think. She'll be your guide as you learn timeless leadership principles to apply to daily living. The offer expires on February 28th. That's this week. So register for or start the online course today. Go to www.livetolead.com/Leesburg. Live, L-I-V-E, the number 2, LEAD.com/Leesburg. All right, folks, this weekend, Senator Bernie Sanders smoked his competition in Nevada, blowing everyone away to take the lead and cement his status as the front-runner Democratic nomination. But now it's on to South Carolina. Tomorrow night, they're going to be in Charleston, South Carolina for the debate, airing on CBS, simulcast on BET as well. And on the stage will be the same candidates from last week, which includes Senator Bernie Sanders, Vice President Joe Biden, Senator Elizabeth Warren, Mayor Pete Buttigieg, Tom Steyer, Mayor Mike Bloomberg, and also Senator Amy Klobuchar. Now, this is being sponsored by the Congressional Black Caucus Institute. Polls showing right now that Vice President Joe Biden is leading in South Carolina, but Tom Steyer is in a strong second place. Bernie Sanders is also moving up as well. Mustafa, this is going to be a very tough week. This is the first time black voters really get their say. Upwards of 60% of the primary voters in South Carolina will be African American. I hope, though, tomorrow night with this debate, you're actually going to hear questions that black people care about, as opposed to moderators going all over the place and then every now and then coming back to questions pertaining to us, considering this is a Congressional Black Caucus Institute sponsored debate.
Yes. And I'm surprised that Klobuchar is actually showing up, since she hasn't shown up on any media colors shows to answer any of the tough questions. So it's on them now. And, you know, it's interesting also that there needs to be questions on environmental racism. There needs to be questions about housing justice and economic justice and what are they actually going to do in that space, and a number of other things that are there. And I predict that when we get done with the South Carolina primary, that there's going to be some surprises. I think that you're going to have a 1 and 2, and I don't know which way it's going to go, where you're going to have Steyer and you're going to have Sanders and not Biden.
Well, I have a slightly different take on it. I think Biden probably smokes the hell out of this primary.
Okay.
You know, Bernie, you know, he did well in Nevada, but at the end of the day, you know, the narrative that went out was that, you know, he did well among voters of color. You know, Bakari Sellers put out an interesting tweet where he essentially said, look, there were 10,000 Hispanic voters and 6,000 black voters. That's going to be one small minor county in South Carolina come this upcoming Saturday. And so the thing is this: I think coming out of debate, you know, we'll see what happens on the stage, and I do hope that we get, you know, being that this will be a debate centered around black issues, it should be, that we get good discussion around black issues, solutions to black issues. But coming out of the debate, going into Saturday, the primary on Saturday, I think Biden does really well. I think Steyer probably does make a strong place in second or third, enough to get him a delegate to keep him around if he decides to stick around. And I think, you know, look, Amy and Pete are going to have a hard time. I think Bernie's going to have a hard time. Bernie has a hard ceiling. He has a hard 25, 30% ceiling. which looks really, really good in really small states like Nevada. But in a big state with a big population, he's going to have trouble.
But first of all, how do we know he has a ceiling? Because the reality is, and Mary, you understand this. When you win, bottom line is there's momentum. And when you come out and you look at it now, so really he eked out a win in Iowa, wins in New Hampshire, wins in Nevada. You look at the polling numbers, that Biden lead is shrinking fast.
I agree with you, and I think that so I can kind of look at all points of it. So first and foremost, that when you win, you do gain a momentum, and that momentum is really hard to sustain. So he can mess it up with one quick move, but I do think it's going to be out of Bernie and Biden. I think that the reason is because when you have black supporters, they always relate it to Barack Obama and President Barack Obama, and I think that that's going to play a huge role in it. But I do think that when we look at Senator Sanders, he's a surpriser. He's one of those people that he's supported by this, what we call a hidden group of people that comes out of the woodworks, but these people are registering to vote. They're getting very involved, and they're actually supporting his campaign. And so when people feel like they can be a part of something, which is what he's been able to do, is galvanize people and make them feel a part of his campaign and a part of his team. No matter where you are in the country, you find him being this front runner. Now, at the end of the day, elections can always surprise us, and so elections start off this way, and then they end up this way. So right now we can all give these big things, but I think when we talk about this actual debate that's going to happen, one of the problems that I think we see in debates across the country is like, who cares about foreign policy that's sitting on their couch that works at McDonald's, or a nurse or somebody that's there? We need to have real issues that they really discuss and ask questions that's going to actually be able to help the voters relate.
But I do think tomorrow you are going to see questions about the coronavirus come up. The stock market dropped more than 1,000 points today. That's huge. This thing is now about to be reach a global pandemic. I think that's going to come up. But I said this in the last debate. People kept telling me I was crazy. Then y'all saw what happened. I think what's going to happen tomorrow night, I think the two people who are going to be the most aggressive tomorrow night are going to be, again, Senator Elizabeth Warren.
Yes.
I think Joe Biden. The difference this time, though, their fire is not going to be just at Mike Bloomberg. They are going to have to go after Senator Bernie Sanders. They cannot allow him to go through another debate unscathed, and I think that's what's going to happen tomorrow. I think Senator Klobuchar is going to be desperate. First of all, she barely even mentions black people. And so I think she's going to have a real problem tomorrow night.
She's done after Super Tuesday.
Well, first of all, I'm not sure she can get Super Tuesday.
Well, her home state's on Super Tuesday, so she's not going to concede before her home state.
Well,
but I think
unless though, again, she doesn't do well. Look, she didn't do well in Nevada. Don't do well in South Carolina. Look, one of the issues that at some point you're going to have some Democratic Party leaders say, hey, Amy, Pete, time for y'all ass to go.
There's only 3 people right now who have the money to actually continue to race. And one of them is Bloomberg, whether you like him or not. The other one is Steyer, and the other one is Sanders. So money is incredibly important in relationship to being able to go.
But here's the deal, though. After the last debate, Elizabeth Warren had her best fundraising to date. Second, I think Joe Biden wins Saturday in South Carolina. I think his people calm the hell down. His fundraising ticks up as well. So I think, first of all, I do believe no one's going to drop out after South Carolina. But I do believe, though, and I keep saying this here, March 4th is really the day of reckoning, because then it's kind of like, okay.
You don't have delegates.
What does this really look? Well, not even really delegates. The question is the path forward. What does it look like? And I think on March 4th, day after, I think it's really going to be for Warren, Buttigieg, and Klobuchar. It's going to be probably curtains, depending upon what happens on Super Tuesday. Now, again, you might have some surprises there.
Warren is.
Well, I keep telling people.
Warren is a different type of. Wait. First, Warren is one of those people that came out early and really came out very strong. So she's down right now. You know, you can't count a person out just because they're down. And I'm telling you, elections are very unique, especially national elections. Warren is she's culturally aware. I'm never going to say that a white person is culturally competent and understand black issues, but what I would say is she tries. And so I would be very surprised if she don't hit y'all on the head and come out on top in this debate. You know, and then the other thing is, and you know, I love women empowerment. Warren is a woman.
Yeah.
She is going to study. She is going to be ready, and she's going to be focused.
The thing is,
And that's why I said, hold on, I'm going to go to you, but that's why I said, look, her performance in the last debate was not going to show up in Nevada because it was too late.
Yeah.
That's right.
Her performance tomorrow is really not about Saturday.
It's about next
Her
Tuesday.
performance tomorrow is about Super Tuesday. Yeah. And again, I think as you're sitting out there, if you have these progressives who don't like Bloomberg, they're not set on fire by Biden, don't really like Pete or Amy, the reality is, Warren, it really is the best next person who is like Sanders, who's not Sanders.
Yeah.
And so I think she benefits from that. And again, and that's why for her, she has to crush it again tomorrow.
Yeah.
Either because also exit polling showed same thing with Klobuchar after New Hampshire. Late deciding people, a third of them went towards Klobuchar. Late deciders in Nevada, they went for Warren. I think if she comes out hard against Bloomberg, hard against Sanders, frankly, hard against Biden, because here's the deal. She's the only one, her and Steyer tomorrow, are the only one on that stage who has no criminal justice baggage.
Yeah.
Every single rest of them, Klobuchar, Pete, Biden, Bloomberg, Sanders, all of them got issues. And so that's the only way she can stay in the game. She has to go straight up, just carpet bombing folks tomorrow to say, yo, y'all don't want to look at me. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the thing is this, I agree with you. And if she does that, I think Super Tuesday it becomes a four-way race. And I think we get to July 13th at the convention with nobody having a majority of delegates. And on that second ballot, you have your nominee decided, second or third ballot. I think probably maybe go to a fourth ballot. And I think, I'll even throw something wild out there. I even think that you might see Kamala's name pop back up at the convention as a wait. As an unbattered nominee. You know, as an unbattered nominee, if you get to a third.
First of all, hold on. Don't even waste your breath with the convention. We ain't even there.
We
Okay,
are
so
there.
we're not.
If you look at,
No, we're not there. It's a waste of time.
Bernie's
it is a waste of airtime to talk about what might happen in July when we ain't even gotten to March.
I will say this: March 3rd, March 4th, after Super Tuesday, you'll have a good trajectory. You could be able to project what's going to happen.
First of all, you can't project what's going to happen because, again, I go back to 1992. Bill Clinton did not win his first state until the 6th primary. Then he lost 7 in a row.
I agree with you.
And then he wins 2. He wins 3 out of the first 14. So all I'm saying is, you can't predict any of this. Again, I think what happens is you have a massive reset on March 4th.
Yes.
Because here's the other piece. With all of Bloomberg's money, he has to prove he can win. What happens on Super Tuesday if he only wins 1 state? All of a sudden it's like, dude, you dropped a whole bunch of money and all you won was 1 state out of 15?
It's not about the rules of the Democrat Party are much different than the rules of the Republican Party. If there's a Republican
proportional.
Primary, the winner take all. The Democrats are proportional.
But you still need a win. See, you got to be able to say, I won.
You have to. This is a delegate accumulation race. That's the only thing that matters.
Well, hold up. First of all,
accumulation
but here's
race.
the piece, though. So if that's the case, Warren is sitting third in delegates, and so watch she drop out. Buttigieg is sitting right now second in delegates. See, that's what I'm saying.
And I agree with you. But come Super Tuesday, those rankings and delegates are going to dramatically change because people like Pete and Amy and Warren aren't going to qualify in a lot of states.
First of all, one third of the delegates are going to be up for Super Tuesday.
Right.
My point is this, though. You still have to claim a win. You can sit here and say, hey, I got 9 delegates or 12. No. To stay in, you got to win something. And you got to be able to say, I won this state. Yep. And what I'm saying is the amount of money Bloomberg has spent. Bloomberg is going to have to win, I say, 5 of the 15.
That's fair.
Because if Bloomberg only wins 1 or 2, it's going to be like
relevance.
Bro, you spent $450 million thus far, and all you want, you skip the first 4, and all you done is you only won 2 out of 15, and then if Bernie takes 5 of those and Joe Biden takes 4 of those, it's kind of like you drop $450 million.
But if it comes down that he's a close second or third in delegates, that's where it's going to matter.
I understand
That's
that.
where it's going to
What
matter.
I'm saying is you're going to have to win.
Yeah.
Bottom line is you can parse the delegates all you want to. It's about winning.
Yeah,
it's about controlling the narrative.
The facts are going to be towards winning.
But
Right, I mean, that's it.
narrative is set week to week.
But what you can,
Every other 48 hours, the narrative is set.
But the reality is it's simple. The facts are going to be based on who won. And even the Democratic Party, like we talk about delegates, talk about all this fancy stuff. But look, when we're talking to the people, they're going to want to know the winning. That's going to be the facts. And we get all off track when we start talking about these terms that people don't understand. Win. If you don't win, you're out.
Right.
And if he win one state, people are going to be like, like we just said, you just said it yourself. Like we got to want to associate ourselves with winning.
Yeah.
And so if he doesn't win, then we're not going to be associating ourselves with him. People are not going to associate with him. So,
And in fact, look, first of all, look, we understand how people look at this. But again, here's the deal. All of these rapid-fire endorsements, it's been positioned as Bloomberg is the only one who can beat Trump because he's got the money.
Ridiculous.
What I keep trying to tell everybody is
It's
you
2020.
can't talk about November until you win
The primary.
the primary. That's what my whole deal is. All the discussion about the convention is all irrelevant. Here's the deal. Right now, Sanders is the front runner. Okay? Now all of a sudden, Pete is hitting Sanders and dropping videos.
As he should.
Bloomberg is. Okay? So now this race can literally flip in the next 2 months. You can go from front runner, ask Gary Hart,
Yeah.
to what happens when you actually now have to run. All these things change. But all I'm saying, though, is I do think you're going to have a whittling of the field. I think absolutely the bottom is going to get sliced out.
Yes.
That means Tulsi, I don't know what the hell she's doing.
Yeah.
But anybody pay attention to her. But I think Steyer,
It's persevering.
I think Steyer, Klobuchar, Buttigieg are the 3 who are absolutely on the bubble.
Oh, yeah, they're
meaning you got to go. Now, Steyer, he's a billionaire,
can do what
so
he
he
wants.
doesn't have to go. But at some point, he's going to have to make a decision. Okay, I'm running, and if I pull 8, 10, 12, 15%, who am I pulling it from?
Yeah.
Now, maybe, as some suggested, his whole deal is, I'm going to keep pulling my 8, 10, 12, 15. That's really coming from Joe,
Yep.
and that's helping Bernie. Don't know.
And
But that has to shake out. Final comment.
I agree with you. And what ends up happening is that, if Bernie does win a state, he's winning it with 30, 35% of the vote, right? And what's also happening is that, your folk like Buttigieg and Klobuchar and Steyer, they're getting 4 or 5, less than 15% and aren't getting a single delegate out of it. So in one respect, it does help Bernie, but on the other side of it, it does help the other folk that get above 15% because the delegates are aligned proportionally.
Well, one of the things that we're also looking at, of course, you got different candidates who are running for office all across the country, and then you want, of course, so much attention on the presidential race,
Yeah.
but Democrats absolutely want to take back, keep the House, take back the United States Senate, but also they're really targeting a lot of these state legislatures all across the country as well, which is one of the reasons why they're also concerned about who's going to be the top of the ticket, and that's why they're saying, hey, if Bernie's at the top ticket, we kiss the potential of winning the Senate goodbye and also some of these state legislatures. But one of the places they want to be able to do is bolster their ranks in the House. Melissa Borum, she's running for Congress out of Indiana. She joins us right now. Melissa, you're running in which congressional district and who are you running against?
I am running in the 1st Congressional District of Indiana, and there are 13 other opponents.
So that's obviously a hell of a whole lot of different people. Is it winner take all? Do you have to get a majority of the votes, or is it 50+1?
No, it's winner take all.
So what is your plan? First of all, who's the incumbent in that district?
Congressman Pete Visklowski is the incumbent. He has been in office for 35 years, and he will retire after 36.
All right. So what for you? How are you trying to stand out among all those candidates?
I think what makes me different is being a Valpo Law graduate and being born in Northwest Indiana, I had the opportunity to work for Congressman Pete Visklowski, Senator Durbin, and also the House Committee on Appropriations. And for the last 4 years, I've managed government affairs for AAR, a global aviation company. And so what we try to do is make sure that we build a sustainable workforce development pipeline into the aviation industry. So I've been on the ground level of building pipelines through educational pathway alternatives and bringing real opportunity to communities where minorities live.
And so first and foremost, when you talk about that particular district, what is the split there? Is it red? Is it blue? What is it?
It's definitely a Democratic jurisdiction.
And so, is it a safe blue seat?
It is safe.
Okay. And so, one of the things that also jumped, you work for the congressman. Has he endorsed anyone in this race?
He has not endorsed anyone in this race, but I've been endorsed by Congressman Jim Clyburn, Congressman Benny Thompson, Congressman Cedric Richmond, and also Congresswoman Marsha Fudge, which that endorsement rolled out today.
Okay. Also, when you talk about what are the areas there in Indiana who votes in that congressional district?
Gary, Indiana, East Chicago, Hammond, Maryville. It incorporates all of Lake County, all of Porter County, and a sliver of LaPorte County. And so there are a lot of cities and towns that is encompassed in this district.
All right, then. Well, certainly good luck as you run for Congress.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks a lot. Folks, we'll be featuring some other candidates in other places who are running as well, most of them largely on Super Tuesday. And so we'll be showing you some of those folks as well. Got to go to a break. We'll be back on Roland Martin Unfiltered. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. All right, so a lot of y'all are always asking me about some of the pocket squares that I wear. Now, Robert don't have one on. Now, I don't particularly like the white pocket squares. I don't like even the silk ones. And so I was reading GQ magazine a number of years ago, and I saw this guy who had this pocket square here, and it looks like a flower. This is called a shibori pocket square. This is how the Japanese manipulate the fabric to create this sort of flower effect. So I'm going to take it out and then place it in my hand so you see what it looks like. And I said, man, this is pretty cool. And so I tracked down, it took me a year to find a company that did it. And so they make these about 47 different colors. And so I love them because, again, as men, we don't have many accessories to wear, so we don't have many options. And so this is really a pretty cool pocket square. Now, what I love about this here is you saw when it's in the pocket, you know, it gives you that flower effect like that. But if I wanted to also, unlike because if I flip it and turn it over, it actually gives me a different type of texture. And so therefore it gives me a different look. So there you go. So if you actually want to get one of these shibori pocket squares, we have them in 47 different colors. All you got to do is go to RolandSMartin.com/pocket squares. So it's RolandSMartin.com/pocket squares. All you got to do is go to my website, and you can actually get this. Now, for those of you who are members of our Bring the Funk fan club, there's a discount for you to get our pocket squares. That's why you also got to be a part of our Bring the Funk fan club. And so that's what we want you to do. And so it's pretty cool. So if you want to jazz your look up, you can do that. In addition, y'all see me with some of the feather pocket squares. My sister, who's a designer, she actually makes these. They're all custom made. So when you also go to the website, you can also order one of the customized feather pocket squares right there at RolandSMartin.com/pocket squares. So please do so. And of course, it goes to support the show. And again, if you're a Bring the Funk fan club member, you get a discount. This is why you should join the fan club. All right, folks, at Black Patch, they dropped their poll, and it shows that 1/3 of black voters want somebody else running for president. According to their particular poll, more than 50% say Democrats are not paying enough attention to their issues, saying they spend far too much time on impeachment and other issues as well. But of course, they also cannot stand Donald Trump. According to Black Pac's poll, 76% of black voters disapprove of Donald Trump's performance. 80% want him removed from office. And other black voters who got contacted by the Trump campaign, 57% said it negatively influenced their willingness to vote for president. And it says here, the political story, nearly a quarter of voters said defeating Donald Trump was the most important to them in November. Look, here's the reality. I think when you look at this poll here, Mayor, polls are a snapshot. The reality is most of the attention leading up to, I would say, October, November, December, January was about Iowa and New Hampshire, two largely white states. Yeah. And so it's no surprise there. But there is some concern when it comes to for Democrats, because Donald Trump and his White House, they are focused on trying to get anywhere from 15 to 20% of black male voters. Elizabeth Warren did a sit-down conversation with a group of black men that was organized, and she said, look, her deal was she wanted to listen as opposed to sort of just keep saying what she wanted to do. That's an area Democrats must be paying attention to.
The first thing I heard that was interesting in there is that black people actually going to the polls. We talked about this before, but number one, we gotta go to the polls and see what's real about this, what's real about the discussions that we have. But the other piece of it is that we can talk about black males, and again, these are polls. These are just snapshots of what people think and what people feel. These are not it's not factual data, and I don't really know who did that poll, but
Cornell Belcher.
Okay, so look, this is the reality.
One of the top black pollsters in the country.
Yeah, you don't get it wrong.
I respect this. I respect it. I get it. I respect everybody's research and what they do. But when we talk about the actual polls and actually what's going to happen in the November election, the first thing is everybody run for office because everybody think they can do it. Okay? Donald Trump and along with the rest of these people, they make these promises. Okay, and it's about what promises they really make to the people. We get very focused and we get very down bad on these ideas of foreign policy and all these fancy things. But the reality is, it's the promises they make. And when we see Donald Trump, we see him meeting with pastors. We see him bringing on people like that he's helping and really dealing with prison reform, which we know he really isn't. But when you do certain things and when you really do things that appeal to the people and you're popular, and it happens. And then let's also be honest. The Republican Party, more than all of us, the Republican Party, they are very, very structured, and they're very, very entitled, and they go out and they get votes and they sustain them, and they win at the end. So,
but I think what's happening here. I mean, first of all, it's no shock. I see this poll, if a third of black people want somebody else to run, because it's not like folks are just bowled over. But also, I think we got to understand something. You have a generation of young voters who their first president was a black guy.
Obama. Yeah.
Right. Okay, elected in 2008. That's 12 years ago. Okay, so if you were 10
and
years,
progressive policies.
No, forget that. Mm-hmm. He's black.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so bottom line is this here: if you were 10 years old. Okay, Obama was elected. Means you were 18 when his term was up. Mm-hmm. All right, which means that by November 2020, you're now 20.
Yep.
See, so your view of who I want to be president is changed because of him. Second, he also was a once in a generation president.
Absolutely.
If you look at, and just in terms of, if you just look at historically, you take Obama in 2008, maybe you want to say Clinton 92, I don't believe so. I say you have to go back to Reagan, okay? That's 1980. So you have a gap of 28 years. Reagan, you got to go back to then JFK, 1960. That's a gap of 20 years.
Yeah.
In terms of JFK, you got to go back to FDR. Not Eisenhower. Well, I mean, Eisenhower was a war hero, but he was boring. Yeah. He wasn't a generational leader. It's FDR. So now I got to go back almost 30 years. And so you have to, so when people say, I want somebody who's going to excite me and motivate me, that only happens once a generation.
Absolutely.
So that's what I'm talking about here. And so it's no surprise that you sort of have that view. And that's why people say, oh my God, I can't believe all minority candidates dropped out. And I had to remind people, historically, black people have not supported black presidential candidates. Obama actually was the first. I mean, you had Reverend Jackson. I'm talking about in terms of in that way. And so I think what black voters are also looking at here is you're going to have to address, again, to me, the nuances of what's going on. Eugene, I go back, the Democrat, there's a 9-point gap between black women who voted for Obama versus Romney and black men. It was 9, okay? It was a 13-point gap between black women and black men with Hillary versus Trump. Trump White House, they told me this. They said, we think we can get 20%. Democrats had better start asking themselves, what is it that black men, what is Trump doing that is appealing to these black men to get them interested?
Just a little bit inside baseball here. I agree with you. I agree with you with every point there. And Team Trump, particularly certain factions of Team Trump, because the broader folk that are power players within Team Trump still don't, give two Fs about the black vote. But there are certain factions of Team Trump that think that, hey, Paris has said on the record they can go from 8 to 13% broadly, and they want to shoot for that 20% among black men. I think, honestly, what it comes down to is engagement, to be honest with you. I think Democrats over the last, X amount of years, going back to Hillary's campaign, have lacked any engagement. And Team Trump, saw a couple things that happened on the RNC side in 2016, and now they're going to attempt to do a couple things on the actual campaign side. The issue that they have is that Trump is still nuclearly toxic. But what they do understand is that although he is nuclearly toxic, if you go in and you figure out what particular issues that certain black men like that appeal to them, whether it be business, whether it be just, okay, hey, we're going to try out Alice Johnson and talk about criminal justice reform, you can possibly peel off some voters there. But their game is just to play around the margins. And I think if Democrats are going to play defense here, or more particularly play offense here, I think the broader aspect of the poll there shows that, hey, it's a reflection of the lack of engagement. Joe Biden, early on engaged black voters. Kamala engaged black voters. You're seeing one of the reasons you're seeing, the black surge around Bloomberg is because he's engaging black people right now. Amy and Pete and folk aren't getting the support because they are not engaging black people. And I think that's the biggest point coming out of that poll. But, I think there's enough toxicity around Team Trump. Look, I'm a black Republican. I'm a lifelong Republican. Now granted, I took the unique stance of saying, F Trump, I'm a never Trumper. That means never, never, which means that for the first time I'm probably voting Democrat this cycle, depending on who it is, who the nominee is. But the thing there is this. I can tell you that there is enough toxicity around Trump that most black people are going to say no to Trump, but even black Republicans will say no to Trump if you give them a reason to. But I also understand, knowing that politics is very cerebral, very sniper-like, not necessarily shotgun-like, but very sniper-like, where you zone in on a particular target and just hammer it in and just keep shooting at it, that if Team Trump applies that and, whoever the Democrat nominee or the DNC or the outside organizations don't do their job and engage, and it has to be engagement, Democrats this cycle have to do essentially what Cambridge Analytica did last cycle. Figure out what your particular issue is, and then come in and hammer it in. But that's what Team Trump's doing. They're gonna run okay, these are our 86 issues that we can talk about, and figure out what you particularly like and what you particularly like, and then carve out a margin. And unless Democrats fight the same way, they're going to be successful at it.
Like I said, Republicans know how to sustain a vote. they go.
But I don't necessarily agree with that, because the thing is this: this would be one of the few times that Republicans actually take the black vote seriously. We do it at the state level. Christie was successful, Gates was successful, Hogan was successful twice. But national level, the RNC typically disregards the black vote.
Mustafa?
You have to make the investments in the black community. We know that. But now Trump actually has a record that he has to run on. So before he could make all kinds of promises without anybody being able to ground truth any of that. Wealth disparity in our country is at one of its largest in history. We know that affordable housing, they have not made the investments there, so it's much more difficult now for folks to find affordable housing. We can talk about all the impacts that are happening to communities of color because of pollution and other things, but it really comes down to jobs also. And, they have not created the types of jobs that are necessary inside of our community. But none of that is going to matter if the DNC and others are not willing to make the investments inside of our community so that the organizations who are on the ground, those organizations of color, can actually properly engage with folks and there be an authentic process.
I don't think that you're going to get an authentic process from either side. But what I will say that you will get is if you get somebody out there that's going to make the investment on the popular issues. The thing I think that the DNC do not do well is that they don't have any really true issues. They talk a lot and they say a lot. Everybody is on a different page. With the Republican Party, we can talk about it, we can disagree about it, but they sustain the votes because they have very specific issues. They narrow in on it, like you said, and they hit it, they target it, they hit it.
Yeah, but the other thing but let's also just be clear, okay? First of all, there's some basic fundamental facts that we have to recognize with elections. And some of y'all might be getting real pissed off at me right now, but I really don't care, because you have to understand the math. So let me just be as blunt as possible. These candidates are not talking to black and Latinos. They're talking to white people.
Yep, 100%.
Okay, let me explain to you what I'm talking about. The last election, 71 or 72% of the total electorate was white. Do y'all hear me? What I'm saying is, of all votes cast in the last election, 71 or 72% were cast by white Americans. The reality is, if you're black and Latino, you're really waiting to see what white folks gonna figure out before who you vote for. I'll go back to 2008. Polling data was real clear. African Americans, not quite sure what white folks are gonna do when it comes to Obama. Obama goes to Iowa, really white state. Ooh, he wins Iowa. Black people like, all right, white folks cool with Obama. We see what they did, now we can roll. It's fact. Now we can sit here and act like it's not the case. This election, depending upon what turnout is, this election will be the first election in American history where less than 70% of the electorate is white. It will be 68, 69, okay? So when you talk about these issues, you have to understand numbers are numbers. And so, black and Latinos, the reason we keep saying, talk about our issues, because first of all, we have to over-index.
Yes.
That's what we have to do. We have to over-index on our vote to make up for the number of whites who aren't voting. And so it's understanding numbers. Second, we talked about this last week with the data from Cornell Belcher. Since 1964, no Democrat has received more than 39% of the white vote. Let me say it again. No Democrat has received more than 39% of the white vote. So when the mayor's talking about Republicans and their issues, no, let's just be real clear. Republican Party is a white party. Let me say it again. Republican Party is a white party. Republican Party is not a diverse party.
Nope.
They got a couple of people like Eugene. They got a couple of people like Anna Navarro, but that's what they are. And so the reality is they can only speak to 3 or 4 issues. Truth is the Democrat tent is much larger. So as a result, those under the Democrat tent make more demands of who is running for president because it's a larger tent. So if you're a Democrat, you got to speak to African Americans, Latinos, you got to speak to Asians, LGBTQ. You got to speak to those who care about the environment. It's like there are more constituencies in the Democratic Party who are vying for attention, saying, listen to me, listen to me, listen to me. On the Republican side, it's real clear. You white, you conservative, you love Jesus. Howard Dean said, God gave guns. So you have to understand what is going on here. And so what Trump wants to do is to pick off, if I can pick off 15, 16, 17, I can offset, okay, black women turnout over here. That's all that is. And so you have to understand how the game is being played. But again, no Democrat since 1964. What's the correlation? LBJ ran for re-election in 64. Okay, after that, he signed the Civil Rights Act of 64, Voting Rights Act of 65, Fair Housing Act of 68, and white voters were not happy and have not been happy. And more than 60% or more of white voters in America have voted for the Republican candidate, which is why any of y'all talking about staying at home is a dumbass. And I'm saying it for a reason. Because you have to understand, if you say my vote doesn't count, it damn sure don't count if your ass stay at home. But you have to look at the data to understand really what is going on here. That was a 2.4% drop black voter turnout in 2016. The first time in 20 years it had dropped. Understand? So I'm not blaming black people for Trump winning. White women got to bear that burden. 53% of white women voted for Trump. Also, college-educated white folks, the numbers who voted for Trump as well. But we have to understand numbers. So when you say, candidates are not talking to me, 71, 72% total electorate white. Everybody else over here, that's how they are looking to and speaking to issues. Just understand that. It's basic math. I think a lot of us don't want to understand that. Got to go to a break. We come back. We're going to pay tribute to Katherine Johnson as well as B. Smith on Roland Martin Unfiltered. You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Folks, Katherine Johnson, the NASA Langley Research Center mathematician, of course, who was, you saw her in the movie Hidden Figures, played by Taraji Henson, died today, age of 101 years old. It was a result of the research of an author who discovered all of these black women who were doing amazing things at NASA, decided to write that book, and it turned into a blockbuster film as well. She has been lauded in a significant way since that movie came out, and it was a great time to see her given the Presidential Medal of Freedom by President Barack Obama. Here's some of that video. All right, folks, we're getting the video together here. Now, remember, it was her calculations done with pencil and paper on chalk and blackboard that put John Glenn and other astronauts into orbit and brought them safely home. She was part of the team of human computers who inspired, as I said, Margot Lee, Shirley Lee's best-selling book, Hidden Figures. Here's President Barack Obama saluting her with the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
Growing up in West Virginia, Katherine Johnson counted everything. She counted steps. She counted dishes. She counted the distance to the church. By 10 years old, she was in high school. By 18, she had graduated from college with degrees in math and French. As an African-American woman, job options were limited, but she was eventually hired as one of several female mathematicians for the agency that would become NASA. Katherine calculated the flight path for America's first mission in space, the path that put Neil Armstrong on the moon. She was even asked to double-check the computer's math on John Glenn's orbit around the Earth. So if you think your job is pressure-packed, hers meant that forgetting to carry the one might send somebody floating off into the solar system. In her 33 years at NASA, Katherine was a pioneer who broke the barriers of race and gender, showing generations of young people that everyone can excel in math and science and reach for the stars.
And of course, we also lost restaurateur, model, author B. Smith. She died on Saturday after a battle with Alzheimer's disease. According to her husband, Dan Gaspy, she was 70 years old. In addition to building restaurants and a home decor collection over the years, she was a fashion model, actress, broadcast talent, best-selling cookbook author. In 1976, she became one of the first African-American women to appear on the cover of Mademoiselle magazine. B. Smith was styled. Her syndicated talk show aired nationally on NBC stations for several years. She also ran 3 popular restaurants, including one here in Washington, D.C. She was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's at the age of 64 in 2013. Folks, again, two amazing women. I knew B. Smith very well. Would often dine with her and her husband Dan. Certainly was just so sad. I mean, just one of the most creative women out there, and 2 pioneers in 2 different areas.
I'll just say this, with Ms. B. Smith, I think what she done was just absolutely remarkable. But when I think about, you know, the Alzheimer's disease and how black women are so affected by that, I think that her death will not be in vain. Number one, we'll be able to enjoy her creations and her innovation and her thinking for years to come. But also, we'll be able to bring some awareness to this disease for our culture and for our black women to be able to hopefully provide more money towards the research of Alzheimer's and things like that. And then we talk about a mathematician, a female black mathematician that is an icon, a celebrity face that we can see that actually do calculations. It just makes me feel good about just the women in America, the black women in America. So I think that having these people as role models, people that we can look up to, and their stories will never die, just because they have so much that they've given to us and so much things that we can tangibly see for the rest of our lives.
You know, I was grateful to be able to actually experience B. Smith's restaurant before it was gone at Union Station. One of the best soul food places I've ever been to in my life. The food was amazing. You know, rest in peace. And I think that you know, her legacy is going to live on, you know, through her work. In regards to Katherine, let me tell you something. Black women have been a part of every major thing that's happened in this country. Without the advancement that came from NASA, and without her calculations, we probably don't see a lot of the technological advances that we got that came out of that whole era, that whole project and program.
Black excellence at its best. Rest in power.
So first and foremost, I want to thank the panel for being here. We're going to end the show with this here. First of all, you want to support Roland Unfiltered, go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Tomorrow I'm going to be in Charleston, South Carolina for the Democratic debate. And so we'll be broadcasting the show from there as well. We're going to end the show here in 2013. Actually, I interviewed Dan and B when they put out their book, Before I Forget, Love, Hope, Help, and Acceptance in Our Fight Against Alzheimer's. And this was my interview with both of them on TV1's News One Now.
She is one of the most creative people many of us have ever known. I mean, take your pick when it comes to fashion, when it comes to cooking, when it comes to restaurants and books and TV show and magazines and all that stuff. So imagine being a very creative, vibrant, busy entrepreneur, then all of a sudden being struck with early onset Alzheimer's disease. How that all of a sudden changes your life, but not just the life of B. Smith, but also her husband and business business partner, Dan Gaspy. Alzheimer's, of course, is usually associated with folks 65 and older. However, it can strike folks as young as their early 40s. Altogether, 5.4 million Americans suffer from Alzheimer's. In fact, every 66 seconds, someone in the United States develops the disease. And African Americans are twice as likely to develop late-onset Alzheimer's than whites. Now, instead of running from Alzheimer's and going into seclusion, B and Dan chose to go public in an effort to help others struggling with the disease. They've written about their experiences in the New York Times bestseller book, Before I Forget: Love, Hope, Help, and Acceptance in Our Fight Against Alzheimer's. And joining us on the set right now is B. Smith, Dan Gaspy. Good to see both of you.
Always good to see you.
Happy to be here.
Glad that you are here. Take us back to before you got a diagnosis. What was happening? What was happening?
You know, well, first let me start off, and we're friends, and you know us for years, know the family. We had everything. We didn't need anything. We had come from nothing, made something, and our world was perfect. I could look across the room and talk to her with my eyes. We could walk into a room and light it up, light each other up, light the audience up, or in a restaurant make people feel at home, as you've experienced. There was a point now that we have dealt with this, that you look back in the book, I call little signs of difference. And those little signs are things that were atypical from someone who is sweet and wonderful and caring, where there may be bursts of outrage about something that didn't seem to be necessary, or repeating of a question more than one time in rapid succession, or asking for something that was no longer there or no longer realizable. And those things make you, go, but they don't make you go like the Arsenio.
Right.
They make you go, WTF. And that was now the thing that we know was the beginning. So Alzheimer's doesn't start like you turn a switch on or you catch a cold. It starts gradual, like a storm. You don't know that it's going to be a rainstorm or if it's going to be sandy. But in the case of Alzheimer's, it is sandy because it changes everything. And because the ability to do everyday basic things become more difficult. That was the beginning, just little things. And that's why when we realized, as we went and had the amyloid plaque test and had the cognitive test, that this was the case, while Sweetie was at the peak of what we know is her abilities to talk and deal with things, she said to me, I want to tell people what I'm dealing with. I don't want people to define me, and I don't define myself. And that was the genesis for this book.
Talk about that.
When I first started the book, everything was going good, and at some point, it just sort of
became difficult.
Yes.
And, here's a woman who I called her the ultimate hyphenate, because you could add this to this to this from mother.
Right, and that's probably, I would think, because look, my sister's husband, my sister's helping the care, she's a teacher helping to care for both of his parents. Dad first got Alzheimer's, then the mother developed Alzheimer's.
Right.
Dealing with both of them. For you, I mean, you had 30 balls juggling. I mean, and you were sitting here, look, I've been in your office, and you're sitting here, you got the line of products, and you got this, and this, and this, and this, and this. And so this creative mind that always kept things, remember this, that, and the other, and all of a sudden, things begin to change for you. How, to being that kind of creative person who's in control, who understands all these different things, that had to be just a dramatic shift for you.
It was, but I never want to stop. And at that time, I was definitely not going to stop.
And the trouble with that, to be honest, because this book is about being honest, both what she's dealing with, what I'm dealing with, what we're dealing with together, is that, you know, you are the sum of who and what you do. And when you can't do it all, things start to unravel or things start to drop. And that is the point where there's tension, there's misunderstandings. Let me say, one of the reasons that we wrote this book was when we look back, I can imagine how many people have left other people because they didn't know that person wasn't dealing with something psychological, they were dealing with something biological or neurological.
And bring that up, because I think this is very interesting.
And nobody talks about this.
Well, absolutely. And also when you talk about married couples.
Yes.
We hear vows, for better or for worse, for richer or for poor.
Through sickness.
Through sickness and health. You talked about coming from nothing, having riches, being better, wonderful life, and now all of a sudden, your life changes. To me, that's the true test of a marriage and whether or not you're committed.
There's no testimony without the test, my brother. And you know what? If I never do anything but make sure that make sure that she's protected for as long as I breathe, I've done everything.
There was a moment when he sent an urgent email and tweet out and text to a lot of us when you were in New York and he couldn't find you.
Yeah.
You went to meet someone.
Met a daughter. 17 hours. She walked for 17 hours in high heels. From Midtown Manhattan to Harlem, down to where the World Trade Center and Staten Island is, over to Staten Island, back. We had people tell us she was singing with people because they were, you know, it was a night and it was the day before the day of Thanksgiving and people were out and having a good time. And she had on red high heel shoes and she had on a windbreaker and it was like sleeting. And we estimated she did a marathon and a 10K.
Wow.
But, you know, she's in great shape, but she's a fighter. And the thing I've learned about this disease that is so devastating is that there's a war going on inside of a person. It's an all-out frontal assault. And I call it an act of domestic terrorism because it devastates the person and those who they love.
Hold tight 1 second. I got to go to a break. When we come back, we'll talk more with B. Smith and Dan Gaspy about their book. Before I forget, right here on News 1 Now on TV 1. Executive in charge and the EV. That's it, y'all. That's it. All right. That was the interview with B. Smith and Dan Gaspy. Prayers for Dan. I've texted Dan. I offered him, asked him to come on. He's still, of course, grieving. And you know, it's real hard. So let me say this here. Real quick. I've had a lot of people send me tweets saying Dan can go to hell because y'all talked about him dating this white woman, bringing to the house. How many of y'all have had to actually care for somebody with Alzheimer's? Not one person out there commenting know anything about what was happening in their house before she got sicker. Nobody. I knew both of them. I know both of them. And I'm telling you, the literal pressure, the depression, the stuff, how his health began to deteriorate because of all of that, of taking care of her. So when I tweeted for people to have prayers for Dan and for her daughter, I don't give a damn if y'all don't like what Dan Gaspy did. I really don't care. What I do know, because I saw it in the apartment in New York, I saw it at dinner, that man loved that sister. And she loved him. And they were business partners. And y'all saying, oh, he's spending her money. He was president of the company. They built that company. And so, yes, Dan is a friend.
B was a friend. And so we all mourn her loss. And so absolutely prayers for him and all who affected the loss of B. Smith. All right, folks, I'll see y'all guys tomorrow. Peace.